everyone. Welcome back to the show. Well, welcome, I guess, to the show. It feels like a whole new beginning. Welcome to Living Unbound. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. Of course, we have a new face, we have a new name, we have a new setup. I really just wanted to, especially after I feel like what feels like 2 weeks. I think I took like 2.5 weeks off. I realized I haven't actually taken time off, true time off, since I left corporate America. Because even I took 2 weeks off at the beginning of 2023 while I was still at corporate, but I was doing yoga teacher training. So I don't know if I would necessarily call that, at least as a projector, I would not necessarily call that as time off. But realizing this, and especially when we get into today's episode, which is all about using your voice, really tuning into your authentic voice, right? Especially with all of these planets in Gemini, I feel like we're really being called to like step up and really express ourselves and express our true selves and finally allowing yourself to really be heard. And it really starts with you, right? When it comes to like really allowing yourself to use your voice. And meanwhile, that's been probably one of my like biggest wounds I've had throughout my entire life, which is so interesting because now here I am with a podcast. But I'm so excited. I'm excited to really be here and really really refresh this space. I feel like my 2 weeks off, though I was so dramatic on Instagram, by the way. Leo and Mercury. I didn't mean to be that dramatic. I didn't expect people to take it that way. But that's how it happens sometimes, you know what I mean? So I feel like these last 2 weeks have just been a really big wake up call. You know, I feel like I was really brought to my knees in like the sense of like, I know I'm meant to do this. Like, I know I'm on purpose. So then why does it feel like it's not working, right? Why does it feel like it's so hard and I'm stressed all the time and it's not feeling as fun and easy and seamless as it once was, right? And so taking time away, especially when you're scared to take time away, that's when you know you got to go. Truly, that is when you know you have to go, right? And so I feel like I've been spending all of this time really understanding, you know, and going back to my mission, really why I wanted to start Megan Unbound, why I wanted to bring this knowledge and wisdom and help people transform their lives, because I went through that same journey and I just wanted to help people do the same, right? And so through these 2 weeks with 2 incredible in-person events, which I have never done before, not in a way like this, where I literally signed up to go somewhere in person where I, didn't know anybody. I've been to a lot of conferences before, but, I was an executive assistant, so it was for my boss. I was going to help with admin support, right? But it wasn't for me. Like, I wasn't the target audience. And so to actually experience something and that was for me and really be in a room with incredible women and really tap into like what the fuck was actually going on and like what the fuck I'm actually here to do. I was like, okay, wow, everything needs to change. Everything needs to change again. Because who am I if I'm not constantly changing? And I think, when I think about, the story that I made when I was brought to my knees and everyone's like, oh my God, are you okay? It's like, yes, I'm okay. But I think, when it comes to changing things and shifting and all this stuff, I think it can be met with a lot of embarrassment and guilt and shame. And I know that's at least what I was experiencing. Because as much as I love to joke about, like Queen of Rebirth, here we are again, changing again, shifting again, like another round, like here we go. As much as I joke about that and, it's written all over my charts, I'm a 5 life path in numerology. I have a 3-line profile in human design. Like it's literally written in my design, right? It's written in my DNA that this is the life that I'm really here to live and learn through. And though I know change isn't a bad thing and shifting isn't a bad thing, sometimes it can just feel so personal. And it can feel like, oh my gosh, well, what I was doing was wrong. And, I really thought this was going to be it this time. And this, that, and the third. And so taking this time has really helped me understand and really get back into my roots. I really actually, the biggest key to bring me to where I am now, which I feel so clear and so focused and so ready to just do the goddamn thing, was really going back to my foundations, which is astrology and human design. I was spending all this money on all these different coaches trying to help me build a business and all this stuff. And I'm like, what if, quick tip, just an idea, since you use astrology and human design in all of your one-on-one work, and I really lean on that, especially when I'm helping people lean into their authority, right? Starting to learn how to make decisions that are actually aligned for them, to take action that is aligned for them, to really start to build the life of their dream that actually feels good. I'm like, why don't I take a look at my astrology and human design and actually build my business that works for me and not anybody else? What a concept. What a concept. And so that's what really brought about this massive change, and what brought about this new setup that I really want to pour myself into. As a Gemini moon, I'm like, I always knew I wanted a podcast, but I was so focused on all of these other things that, like the podcast was just like another, oh yeah, I'll just talk about this. I'll talk about this, instead of like actually pouring like true value and all of my like knowledge and wisdom into it, and really having this space be the place where y'all go to find all of the things, to learn all of the things. And so I'm so excited to bring this to y'all and really bring my knowledge and my passion and my excitement for astrology and human design. Again, I always use it in my one-on-one work. I just realized I never talked about it. And I'm like, how silly of me. Also, like when I'm at dinner party, like literally when I'm at a dinner party at retreats and I talk about astrology and human design, they're like, oh my God, what am I? And I'm like, oh, pull it up. And I'll literally like start just spewing off readings for them. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, why am I not offering this? And so honestly, I feel like Jupiter going into Gemini was such a blessing for me. And it's a blessing for really us all, right? Jupiter rules over expansion and prosperity, and Gemini rules over communication, learning, our voices. And so that's what I really want to dedicate this episode to, is really starting to understand like what our authentic voice really means, and how to tap into our voice and really use our natural gifts and talents to share our voice with the world, right? And so I'm so excited to get into all this today, because it's going to be so much fun. So I want to focus on two things. If y'all want to go and look up your human design and astrology charts, pull up your astro and your human design, and I want you to look at where your Mercury is. And if your voice is defined, your throat chakra in human design is defined or undefined. And I'll get to that later, and I'm going to focus first on the astrology part as I pull up my notes, because I'm so fancy now these days. I have to have my notes out while I'm on video, which is so interesting to me. So I want to look at where Mercury falls on your chart, right? Mercury, again, rules over communication. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, right? Especially swift and efficient communication. So though during this time when we have the sun, the moon, because I'm filming this right now, it's on the new moon in Gemini. As a Gemini moon myself, I'm just thriving, I feel like, right now. But as we have the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Venus, and Jupiter, I believe, all in Gemini, this is really about understanding, like, and it can feel like we're everywhere all at once, like wanting to talk 20,000 miles a minute, right? But I really want to take a step back and understand what it is truly on our hearts, right? When we remove all of the noise, what's actually at the base? What do we love to talk about, right? What do we love? How do we love to share ourselves? How do we love our voice? And really honor our voices and what we talk about and how we talk about them and who we open up to, right? Gemini rules over community. And so I really want to dive into this aspect because I feel like so many people, are always trying to find their voices, right? I don't mean that in quotes, but it's like, it sounds so silly because we're all talking, right? Here I am talking to you. I've been online now for years now at this point, and it's like, what do you mean, Megan, you haven't like found your voice yet? Or, oh my God, Megan, what do you mean? Like, you found your voice during the ceremony one time. Like, how are you talking before? And it's not that we need to find our voice, but I think it's really understanding that there are times where we are speaking from an anchored place. Like when we think about the chakras, our throat is connected to our heart space that's anchored into our power, that is seeping into the ground and rooted and solid and clear, right? That's when you know that it's you, compared to sometimes when we are speaking to someone and people are like, oh, like, have you seen, like, for example, you're talking to someone, they're like, oh, have you seen Bridgerton yet? And you're like, oh my God, yeah. But you actually haven't seen Bridgerton. And you're like, wait, why did I just say yes? Like, why did I just say I knew that thing, but I did not? Or when we're going into a networking event and people can be asking you personal questions about what you do and what you work on. And instead of like maybe giving like the full spiel, like we kind of belittle ourselves. It's almost like we put on these different masks when it comes to sharing parts of ourselves, because sharing our authenticity and sharing from our heart space, right? Our soul is very vulnerable. And so the more that we can really understand where our Mercury lies in our chart, the things that we love to talk about and actually are meant to have a strong voice over, right? We can then begin to understand how maybe we're not living in that highest alignment. Maybe we have a lot of shame around a certain area of our lives. Maybe we hold a lot of embarrassment. And so we actually dim our own light and try to shut that side of us off because it was deemed one point or another as unpopular, rejected, like all of those things, right? Where it was just not deemed as enough, which is insane. So I want you to pull up your charts and I want you to look at where your Mercury is. And not only the sign that it's in, but the house that it's in too. Because when we look at the sign, not only we can understand how we're meant to express. So for example, my Leo is in Mercury, okay? So when it comes to expression, I can be very loud, I can be very dramatic, I can be very expressive, can be very bold. And at the same time, I actually put off doing this today. I was supposed to do it yesterday. My throat was still a lot happening. So I was like, okay, like I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow and see if it's better. And it's not. But I'm like, the big Megan that has the big show can't keep putting off her records because her voice isn't perfect. So that's how I'm embodying my Mercury sign right now. However, so not only does the zodiac sign tell you how you're meant to be expressive, right? But then the house also tells you the area of life that you actually are meant to express yourself through, really feel like an expert in. Love to learn about it too, right? Mercury is also all about like learning and like just like intellect and just diving into all the knowledge, right? So my Leo Mercury is in my 6th house of wellness, communication, of wellness, routines, mental health. So like, of course, I love to talk about transforming your life. I love to talk about how astrology and human design can really help you really get to know yourself and understand yourself. I love to go into, especially my one-on-one work, we really go into like practical tools of like how to actually mold your life and reality to actually fit what like actually feels good for your energy, right? Not just like having a meditation practice because like that's what everyone else does, or having a journaling practice because that's what everyone else does, but actually having practices and routines in your life that actually nourish your soul, actually nourish you instead of like nourishing the idea of what a perfect day and perfect person is supposed to have, right? So, of course, that's why I have a podcast where I literally talk about, and I've then have my whole career around like helping you transform your life through actually learning how to honor your own energy. However, I just feel like I came into this maybe in the last like 2 to 3 years, right? Because I mean, I've been studying astrology since 2018, and I never felt enough to actually claim myself as astrologer, to actually like put both feet on the ground and like claim it's like, oh, like this is actually something that I love to talk about and I love to do, even though all my friends are probably rolling their eyes at me because like I'm always talking about astrology. But at one point in my life, I actually had a lot of like shame around it, you know, because people also at the same time roll their eyes. They're like, oh God, another astrology girl. Or like, oh God, like, you know, that another woo-woo girl, you know, just talking about all of her energy shit again. You know what I mean? And especially when we have Leo being very loud, proud, dramatic, bold. The other side of Leo is very insecure, right? Can be very judgmental and very hard on themselves. And so witnessing this in my own life, I've really been able to cultivate not only and identify like when I'm actually on fucking track. Because maybe 2 to 3 years ago, if I looked at this, I was like, oh, wait, like I don't talk about any of that stuff at all. Maybe like on my own, like in private and like one on like maybe sometimes with like very close friends, always my fellow projectors, because you know, y'all are just always able to see me and stuff, you know. But truly compared to now where like I've actually been able to hone that skill, really work on the shadow aspects of using my voice and putting myself out there and being seen, and actually now giving myself a platform to use my voice in this way. And so to give some other examples, it's actually so funny. When I was looking, I was like, I'll look at some of my past clients. My two clients that I pulled up both have their Leos and Mercury. I'm like, I guess I attract a certain person. So if your Leo is a Mercury, hit me up. But anyway, each of their Leo and Mercuries, right, take place in different houses. So my one client, she has Leo, her Mercury in Leo in the 9th house, which is all about higher learning, travel, teaching. And she is a big travel girl. And so for this client, I'm like, you should really start sharing your travels, like really start talking about the things you are learning in all of these different places, sharing them on social media, right? Like really starting to like own this part of your life. Even like someone with this placement would be a great like travel blogger, right? Like one of those digital nomads, right? Like, so, but really understanding that like you are meant to be loud and proud and dramatic about it, right? My other client, she has her Mercury in Leo, but in her 8th house, and the 8th house is like the witchy house, right? So death, psychic, taboo, and she's a psychic medium. So her having her Leo in the 8th house and her being a literal psychic medium, it's like, okay, not only is she meant to be loud and proud about some of the stuff, especially with these spiritual practices, they can feel so like, you know, personal, and not everyone is going to understand me or get me. And the thing about Leo is like, you cannot let the opinions and the thoughts of everyone else dictate your own truth. And this goes for every single sign, right? This is your truth. And so the louder and prouder she is around talking about her work and her supernatural experiences and teaching people how to tap into their intuition and learn even different things of mediumship or dowsing rods or anything like that, right? Like really just bringing to light, especially as Leo is ruled by the sun, like really bringing to light in this house some of the things that are more dark and not talked about very often. And then my final example, I'm like something that isn't a Leo, a Leo Mercury, is this client has their Leo in Aquarius in the 11th house. The 11th house being of community, friendship, connecting the dots, and very imaginative. So with Aquarius, with this client particularly having their Mercury in Aquarius, Aquarius is, again, it also rules over the 11th house. So it's all about community and really bringing people together. And so speaking for this client, speaking in groups and really having a group of friends that they're able to really connect with on an intellectual level. This client in particular loves ancient civilizations and really like going into some of the more very Aquarius things in life, right? So like really like talking to people that can, and really like bridging some of these concepts that might not necessarily all go together, like Lemuria and I'm like Egypt. And I mean, they do go together. Astrology. All of these things that like maybe on the outside might not look like they all go together, but they're really actually meant to talk about how they actually all are all connected. And so depending on where, of course, your other placements are in this chart, it's kind of like what paints this beautiful picture. But that's kind of how you can start to dive into kind of like how you're meant to communicate, right? So for my client with their Leo and Mercury, like really like forums, group chats, like someone where there's not really a leader, but like everyone is really like coming together and talking about certain things, like is very Mercury and Aquarius. And then also when you get into the house is really where like your voice is meant to shine, right? Where you really are able to feel fully expressed. And so when you begin to look at these things and you look at your house and what sign it's in, for example, if you have a Cancer Mercury, for example, if your Mercury's in Cancer, this means that you are actually like so compassionate and empathetic when it comes to your communication. You are really able to truly like feel your emotions while you speak. And then depending on what house it's in, you can get a little bit more granular, right? If it's in the 5th house, which rules over expression and creativity, like you being a fucking like a poet. I kept wanting to say poetic, but that wasn't it. But you can be very poetic with your words too, right? Especially, oh my gosh, like think Taylor Swift. I think she has her moon is in Cancer. So that's how I feel like Mercury in Cancer, like they're just very poetic. You can really like feel the emotions behind their words, right? And if it's in their 5th house that rules over expression and creativity, they're going to be incredible writers, really meant to like a love letter is very much their vibe. You know what I mean? They probably write the best cards, that type of vibe, compared to maybe if it was in Cancer in the 7th house of relationships. This is them being really called to be very open and vulnerable and communicative in their like one-to-one relationships, right? In their intimate relationships, their partnerships, friendships, but in that close proximity setting, like really being called to be open and vulnerable and really like letting someone really hear the full spectrum of their emotions through that, right? So after you kind of do your due diligence, look up your placement, I want to ask you a few questions, and you can use these as journal prompts to really help you understand, like, especially if we're seeing something we're like, wait, because this was me like maybe like 3 years ago being like, wait, I'm actually supposed to talk about this? Are you sure? Right? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like enough of an expert really in that, right? So it's like, what do you really mean? So first, I want you to really take a moment and really look at yourself and be like, how do I feel about this area in my life? Like, do I feel strong in this area? Is this something that I actually like to shy away from? Do I feel like I can be open and communicative in this space? Like, what is my relationship with like that house area? Like, forgo the communication aspect, but even just being in that space as you, right? Is this something that you feel naturally drawn to or like to talk about? Or do you like to shy away from it? Because again, this will really help understand maybe some of the shadow aspects. If we have maybe limiting beliefs around like, oh, well, like my Mercury is in my fifth house, but I never really deemed myself as like this like creative, expressive, like person. Like I always actually felt like really not creative. Sorry, I'm not laughing at that because I'm laughing at myself because I couldn't think of a better word, an opposite of creative than not creative. And so I'm sorry. That's just where I'm at right now. But really starting to understand like what our relationship is with this space. And if you do shy away, why? Right? So whether, and again, you can journal this out, you can ponder these questions like on your drive, on your walk, whip out your voice note, especially again with everything in Gemini, being able to talk out loud during this time is so important. So if you do shy away from this area, what is our reason? Why do we feel this resistant towards it? Is there a belief that we might have felt less than, belittled, not feeling enough to talk about this certain area, feeling shame talking about this area, right? Especially if you have an eighth house placement, because that also rules sex and intimacy. Like if we grew up in a very like religious household, like talking about sex and being sexual, I wouldn't say was like I wouldn't say it was like encouraged per se, right? And so we could have, some limiting beliefs, some wounding around these certain areas. And starting to find that belief, right? And really holding on to that and really understanding if it's true, right? Like, oh, okay, well, like maybe, I feel shame because, I really felt like at one point in my life, like I felt unsafe to talk about this, right? And so now realizing like, do I still feel unsafe now? Or now am I just holding myself back, right? From feeling into my fullest expression of this. So really just like journaling and just really acknowledging like where you are with this piece, like with this part of you, and really giving yourself a chance to acknowledge maybe the little child within us that is still feeling a little scared to, use their voice and be seen and be heard in this way, right? The next question is, in what ways is life calling you to use your voice in this area more? And I really like this question because for me, when I like look back at like my timeline of life, right? My booklet of life, there are moments throughout my journey that were genuinely, and life was genuinely pushing me in the direction to talk more about astrology, to talk more about human design, to be an energy healer. However, I was just like, not yet. Not yet. I don't feel enough. I don't feel like I know enough yet. I'm technically like, I haven't studied enough. I haven't done this. And so what areas in your life do you now realize were actually the universe starting to call you more into your life, into this aspect, and really helping you use your voice in this way? And then the last question, how can you begin to allow yourself to be in authority and allow yourself to be heard? And so this last question really gets into all about giving yourself an action item when it comes to this. So like, again, for my Leo Mercury in the sixth house, for me, it was actually starting to introduce myself as an astrologer, human design reader, and quantum healer. Like when people would ask me, I'm like, oh, I help people be fully expressed through astrology and human design and quantum healing. It was starting to do little astrology workshops at the companies that I worked for. I would do like little team building exercises with astrology and human design to like help people get to know each other better. It was even writing about it more in my journal, right? Like, what is your next, like, again, we don't need to like, though this is the space for shooting for the stars. I'm not saying that we're not shooting for the stars here, but I want like the next baby step. Maybe it's talking to your mom about what's actually on your heart. Maybe it's talking to your partner about how you really feel about your relationship right now. Maybe it's going to your boss and really starting to voice your opinion about like how they make you feel in meetings, right? Whatever that next baby step is, and maybe it even starts with you, right? Having a journaling practice, talking in your voice note, like sending voice notes to yourself, like in your voice app, right? Like maybe just to yourself first, just starting to really nurture this part of yourself and really nurture this aspect of like, oh, wait, like I do actually love expressing myself in this way. Cancer in the fifth house, maybe you start writing poetry. Maybe you start listening to music where you can really resonate with the lyrics, right? And really vibe with the lyrics. And so, really helping you understand like what your next step is, like what that next little baby step is to really begin to anchor your voice into a deeper part of your truth and begin to express it. Now, when it comes to human design, the human design piece is really, really interesting. So some folks will see their throat chakra in human design as defined, meaning that it's colored in, and some will see it as undefined, meaning that it's open. If it's defined, so for example, like if you're a manifester or a manifesting generator, you have a defined throat center. I have a defined throat center as well as a projector, but always for my manifestors and manifesting generators, they're always going to be defined. That means you have a consistent voice, okay? And that means when it comes to your truth, like you are really meant to be led by your voice and really using your voice to manifest, okay? Really using your voice and really choosing the words that you say out of your mouth very carefully, because the words that are coming out of your mouth are either helping you or hurting you. So really understanding that like you have a very definitive way of talking, of how you speak, and is actually meant to bring you forward into your life. You are hands down meant to use your voice in a very consistent way. Now, this doesn't mean for everyone else, they're like, oh my God, but I'm undefined. Does that mean that like I don't use my voice in a very consistent way? Kind of. But also when it means that it's undefined is that you can like, this is the person that can learn like 12 different languages. You are just really able to be adaptable. And I really want to, especially when it comes to your voice, when you are around certain people, you might talk in one way or another way. You're really great with accents. You know what I mean? Like you can really immerse yourself in other cultures. And so this doesn't mean I want to really talk on this when it comes to the human design aspect, because just because your voice isn't defined doesn't mean you don't have a strong voice. However, I do want to point out that when we have an undefined throat chakra, it just means that we can be a little bit more fluid, and we can confuse that by feeling like flaky, by feeling like, well, like, what is my truth? Because when I'm with this person, I'm talking this way, and I'm with this person, I'm talking this way. But I want you to have fun and like actually really embrace that part of you when it comes to your voice. You are really here to not only speak your truth, but you also help amplify the voices of those around you. And so it is truly a gift. And just knowing that like you don't have to like shame yourself for feeling like no matter where we go, we're just gone with the wind, right? You are really here to like embrace the full aspect of the voice, right? And it's so, so beautiful to be able to not only like speak from your heart, but also being able to amplify the voices of those around you. But you don't have to worry about and shame yourself for feeling inconsistent. While for people with divine throat spaces do have that very definitive, like they're oftentimes even these people have very like definitive voices. Like you can hear their laugh, for example, and know exactly who it is and things like that. So I want you to feel into that and really like embrace it as a true gift, right? Especially for those that have their throat defined, really knowing that like your voice is your superpower and a weapon, and knowing that you can wield that weapon however that intention is really meant to, it gives you a lot of power. And so really understanding that like things that come out of your mouth, the way you speak about yourself, about others, really changes the frequency around you. And for my undefined girlies, really understanding that like you are able to ebb and flow and change, and it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you or that anything is bad. It actually means that like you are able to, like an incredible voice actor would have a undefined throat center, right? So it's like it gets to be something that you use as a gift, and knowing that like you don't need to like talk in one way or have one defined truth, and knowing that if we are around a lot of people and we really do want to get very, very clear on like what it is that we want to say, giving yourself time alone and really using your authority about who you are letting into your sphere, right? Because when we can empty ourselves out from everyone else's energy around us, you can hear your voice a lot more clearly and be able to share yourself more. And maybe like when we do have to have a tough conversation, I think it would be probably really great for y'all to maybe like write out what you want to say when we're alone and like by ourselves. So you're very, very clear on what you want to say and what you want to talk about before we're getting influenced by anyone else around you, right? So really feel into that, really take a moment and like sit with yourself and really like let that guide you. And for those that either want to dive into this more now, say it's like we just went through this, little fun workshop exercise and it's like, okay, like I just learned all this stuff, but it's like I want to know more. Like I want to know like how my Mercury like and how my authentic voice actually feeds into my soul purpose, or if we're feeling like not resonant with our Mercury at all, like really understanding like the bigger picture and why that is, and you want to go deeper with me, I have a new offer suite. I have a new offer suite that really helps you dive deep. So I have cosmic design readings that are perfect for the person that is ready to just dive on in to everything that is like, especially when it comes to living in your soul purpose. We dive into everything. So granted, I play on this concept of cosmic design because I use astrology and human design, because astrology is telling you what we are working with, especially like as we came into this earth, right? Astrology has a map of the energy that we came into the earth with, right? From our strengths, our weaknesses, our purpose, our wounding, right? It's got everything. And so it gives a perfect map of the energy that we're actually here to embody. And then human design tells you how. So, for example, if we're feeling really disconnected from where our Mercury is in our charts, the more that you practice your human design, you practicing your strategy and authority, it will help you start to feel more resonance in your purpose with your energy, because now you're actually operating in a way that actually feels good to you. And now we're getting to shed all the stories and the conditioning. If when you were journaling and we have a really big belief that, I know one of mine was that my voice is not important, that I grew up my whole life just being so in my body, but my voice was just belittled. I grew up with the belief that I wasn't smart. And so, only intelligent people get to feel like an expert. And so if when you were journaling on your beliefs and you're like, wow, okay, like this has actually been following me for a very, very long time, and I want to have a better understanding about why this is still with me and what I can do to begin to heal it, I have Rewire and Release, which is a 60-minute quantum healing session where I bring you into the subconscious through meditation, and I actually, through journeying, help you understand when this belief came into existence, like when it was implanted into your body, understand what the situation actually was, and actually then go through a clearing to help you clear this belief and actually then replace it with the belief that you actually needed to hear, and have that belief then run through your timeline and heal all of the other versions of you that are bringing you to this day. So, cosmic design sessions, my astrology human design readings, and my Rewire and release sessions, which is quantum healing. Everything's going to be down in the show notes. And these are things that I actually like, if y'all have been following me for a while, these are the 3 elements that I use in my one-on-one work, but I just realized that I had no like one-off. I had no one-off sessions with them. Like I had no way for people to start to get a feel of the work before diving into a 4-month container with me. So these 2 spaces are going to be the space for y'all that want to dive into whether you want to feel into your soul purpose, whether you're looking for more love in your life, where if you're wanting to build a business and you want to actually build it according to your energy, right? All of that fun, beautiful, incredible things are going to be found in the the cosmic design sessions. And then all of the energy work, the really big reprogramming, rewiring, releasing all of the old stories, beliefs, and like deconditioning from just like all of the bullshit that like society has put on us for so fucking long. That will be in Rewire and Release. And then I also have a free community that I announced. Well, it's technically today, which I'm filming this, but this is not going to be released in terms of today, but on the new moon. So I have a completely free community on Telegram called the Daily Download, where, for example, for the new moon, I posted a whole manifestation ritual and an oracle reading. But the notion is that every day I come in, I talk about what's happening in the sky, I drop in some wisdom or transmission, channel messages, oracle readings, like whatever that day I feel like is calling for, especially for the people that are in this group. I tune into y'all's energy and I really start to channel like what y'all need to hear the most, and I let it all fly. And so if you're interested in joining that group, I would love to have you. Honestly, it's just going to be so fun. We're already having a blast in there. I can't wait to hear everyone's new moon ceremonies go tonight. It's going to be a blast, but that will be in the show notes as well. And I think those are all my announcements. Yeah. Free community, cosmic design, and Rewile and Release. So I'm so excited. And then of course, obviously this is new, but you're already here. So you already know that this is new. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm so unbelievably grateful to be able to connect with y'all in this way. Do me the best favor ever. And if you have friends or family that you feel like would really love and resonate with this episode, please share it with them. I just want to get like the love and wisdom and just the power of astrology and human design to everyone that I possibly can. So share this with a bestie. Please rate and review the podcast. Tell me what's resonating with you, what you're loving. It'd be so appreciative. And then, of course, if you're on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe, comment below, all of the things. I love you all so, so much. And until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.